Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer Indigenist auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hi everyone, welcome to Aunty K's. I am here today with my two Ride or Die decks to participate with a VR to Mixtress Rae's Ride or Die Unfair Comparisons. And so we've seen the Unfair Comparisons videos. They're great. Check them out. A link to the playlist and to the challenge to do this VR will be in the description box. So in Unfair Comparisons, there's usually two very different decks compared, but Mixtress Rae challenged us to do an Unfair Comparison style video with our Ride or Die decks. And so I think everybody knows that my Ride or Die decks are the Next World Tarot by Christy C. Rhodes and my own Landback Tarot. And also there's the Oracles of Colonization, but I'm not going to do them in this Unfair Comparisons. So that's, yeah, I'm keeping it simple, folks. It's a thing I'm trying out this year. All right, so let's get started with these. All right, so I'm going to talk, before I get into the Unfair Comparisons, a little bit about these two decks. And also, like, comment, and subscribe. Forgot. Okay, so Christy C. Rhodes, everybody knows that this deck, the Next World Tarot, it's inclusive, it's diverse, it has all the bodies that aren't usually included in tarot. And unlike a lot of the diverse decks out there, there's a high level of diversity in this deck. And that's a big thing for a lot of people. But my love of this deck, what makes this deck Ride or Die for me is more than that. This is a decolonial deck. Christy C. Rhodes wrote a decolonial guidebook. It's more than just diversity. It steps outside the point of view of cultures of whiteness that tarot is written in and often recreated in. And it doesn't just take it specifically into another culture. It takes it out of what cultures of whiteness created to create cultures of whiteness, because cultures of whiteness did not exist before capitalism and colonialism. They all go together. So this is an anti-colonial, decolonial deck. And I cried reading this guidebook I cried, I laughed, I was excited. I was like, oh my God, this tarot deck translates the cards the way I had been for years trying to translate these really colonial images and it gave me the images I wanted. And then Landback Tarot is also a decolonial deck. I outside of my tarot life, up until I started creating this deck, I still do speakings, but I did activism on decolonization and anti-colonialism and anti-racism and all that stuff. I was involved in actions of many kinds. I spoke on this stuff. I politically am an Indigenist. For those of you who don't know what that is, some might describe it as an Indigenous anarchy, but I would say Indigenous anarchy is a functioning part. I would say Indigenous anarchy is a part of a fully functioning Indigenism, which is a worldview, a way of life based on taking Indigenous concepts of life and governance on these lands and putting them into political language and understanding that is used today. So, go Google. There's lots of great folks to read. So, in the cards, so for the Fool, the typical Fool card might be standing here ready to jump off, but, they're looking at everything around them. There's maps. They are thinking about what direction they're going to head into. And we can see they're all prepared. They're ready to go off into a different direction, just like the Fool is frequently about to jump off the cliff. We don't usually see them jumping in process. There's a moment of thought before you go. And so we see so many things that they have around them that they're going to bring with them. Seeds, plants, water bottle, lunchbox. These might be some tickets. They've got so many things around them to ponder and consider where they are going. And it had said Yonkers, and that's crossed out and says nowhere. In the Landback Tarot, it is a first-person perspective. This is your knee and your moccasined foot about to go off this cliff into the spiritual waters of your tarot journey. And next we have the Magician, which I have retitled The Elder. So here the Magician's got like their coffee. We both got coffee. You know, their pack, book, tablet, books on tarot and herbalism and things. And they're out in this big wide world. They might look like they're there alone, but you know, they are the keepers of the city that you are about to enter. They have all kinds of knowledge that you do not hold, a different perspective, a different point of view to share. And in this case, we have the Elder. They're in their homes, so everything they need is there. There's some herbs back here in the kitchen, a medicine bundle, coffee, and here's your coffee as you sit and you chat with this Elder at the beginning of your journey. And, you know, you're going to learn things. You're going to learn about the tools that you have and the knowledges you can carry out on this path. You know, one of the things about the Magician traditionally is they can be a gatekeeper, and an unhealthy self-proclaimed elder will certainly fill that role. But you know, in other ways there too, they know the protocols, they know how things are supposed to go down. They set the boundaries of how things should occur. So here we have the High Priestess and the Healer. We don't have priestesses, so I definitely wanted to change that. There's a lot of similarities between these two images. Here, the High Priestess is in the daytime. They've got some candles. The moon is down here. They've, you know, got some crystals and some workings here. A whole lot of pomegranates. Both are sitting cross-legged. Here we have the moon, and it's reflected in a copper pot. And, you know, they've got a cougar sitting with them like their guide, whispering to them the secrets we haven't all heard. The Empress. This Empress is not pregnant, and we can see life around them. They're growing life in plant life here. We can see like their connection and their bodily comfort. They carry some fire. Over here, we have a parent teaching a child about, you know, gathering foods in traditional ways in the forest. So food sovereignty is a means that is accessible for not everybody, but a number of people towards, a growth and a birth to decolonizing our futures. And so this card is called Today's Future. I chose Today's Future because of so many of the things that the Empress represents. And to me, that is today's future. And that is a play on the theme of pregnancy. But instead of pregnancy, we have a parent and a child. It could also be an auntie or uncle and a child. For the Emperor, Christy C. Rode changed this to the teacher, and I have changed this to yesterday's foundation. And I think I'm going to talk a lot less about all the cards. Maybe this designation, I like the change for the Emperor, but I don't necessarily always have positive outlooks of teachers. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Plenty of Indigenous folks, well, plenty of, children of color have had very negative experiences with teachers. But, we can see positives and negatives in this card. They definitely they educate us in the structures and ways that we must live under the Emperor's rules. That's, really what education does, unless you, get into self-education or educating your child. And self-education, school's purpose is to create laborers and business folks and folks on the bottom. Oh yeah, school's not actually designed to turn us all into laborers. Capitalism doesn't work if everybody is. There has to be like a desolate bottom for capitalism to work because it's a hierarchy. Anyway, I like the idea of yesterday's foundation because it plays on the Emperor theme, and it does create a structure. The elders who went before us, they have created structures for us to build upon, and some things will keep and some we should change. Christy C. Rose has changed the Hierophant into the Messenger. They might be an activist, although like the podium and the microphones and the suit, I don't know. This part of the appearance was always weird to me in this description. But I don't trust, like, micro elites leading activism, because usually they choose like tamer ways to go about it, play to the middle. They tell us to go another way, but they don't really tend to want us to actually undo the colonial states. That's my opinion of micro elite activists. But yeah, that's my opinion. I'm more into grassroots activists. That's where I found my trust. I went with like the negative connotations of the Hierophant. I changed this title to the Charlatan. I'm not actually showing like a typical charlatan, but I'm showing a political charlatan, and they do lend like this fake spiritual okayness as well. This is a political charlatan. They are the so-called, grand chief in Canada of a political lobby group paid for by the federal government. Indigenous people don't vote, but there's no grand chief. That's not a real deal. This person is here to make the state look good under colonialism, which, they give moral credence to the colonial acts the state does upon Indigenous folks in Canada. And, you know, the Hierophant morally okays capo colonial states and empires. The Lovers. I went with a more, you know, typical two folks in love. And Christy C. Rhodes went with an image of self-love. All right, neither of us went with a traditional image in the Chariot. Christy C. Rhodes took us into futurism, which is an awesome idea for a chariot. And like imagining futurisms, Indigenous futurisms, Latina futurisms, African futurisms, Arab futurisms. Like, let's see the futurisms of the various colonized worlds. I know I didn't include everybody, but so that was a cool idea. For me, I wanted to remind us that free will isn't just like, will isn't just manifesting shit. That's a privileged point of view. Will's like, in this case, will is, you know, where you find from the bottom of the depths of your gut, the will to do what has to be done to keep your family going, to keep your family supported. This isn't hopes and dreams, which is very different than Christy C. Rhodes' futurism. My deck's like what comes before this deck. If we were looking at a decolonial history, like you would go through all this crap and then this would come next. So this is somebody, you know, an inner city world Indigenous person busing into the suburbs for their, you know, mall job to sell, you know, to sell suburban folks their fancy bath products. And yeah, they're in their Bath and Body Works apron. And this is like that drive to like move you when you don't want to move, but you know, your heart's like, this is what I have to do. Strength. Here we have a person who is like growing plants, and we can see this is a pretty rough area, but they're bringing this like rough area into this beautiful kind of wild garden. And here we have Amanda Pulcheese showing us this like quiet inner strength when they kneeled down in front of, you know, a line of militarized RCMP with an eagle feather. So for the Hermit, I have the Storyteller, and Christy C. Rhodes has somebody, you know, in their room with the most basic things they need. The Hermit doesn't need all like, the Hermit doesn't need all the tools, right, that the magician or the elder needs. The Hermit needs, you know, a quiet, dark place, possibly some music, their clothes, a light. And for mine, I went with the Storyteller. You know, it's really great to go in Hermit. It's an important thing to do. But it's important to remember that you don't stay there. You need to come back and tell stories. And also I chose the image of the Storyteller because, you know, a lot of parents, we hermit a lot at night, especially if we're single for various reasons, or, you know, separated from partners for various reasons. Nights can be these lonely, quiet times. And, you know, your child might be your only light. And we pass on all the knowledge that we have gained contemplating on those quiet nights through our stories. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune, where I chose the Mirror, which really does show the same idea, those concepts of like moving through time and seasons. It's not stoppable. It goes up, it goes down. There is spring, there is harvest, there is winter. I think Christy C. Road and I chose fairly similar themes for justice, although very different depictions. In Christy C. Road, so Christy C. Road's deck, you know, we have people demanding justice. We do have people demanding justice here, and we are questioning what is currently called justice. For the Hanged Man, we have suspension, and we have dead time. You know, Hanged Man, dead time. Yeah. Here we have death. I said I wasn't going to talk through every card. I think I'm going to just talk through some, or it's going to be super long. Temperance. I like that both of us are showing that finding of temperance in difficult moments. The Devil. Justice is not blind when silence equals profit. So both of us are showing, you know, our different yet similar perspectives of what, you know, this devil supposedly is that they always talk about since they came here, bringing their devil. And we've had to contend with their devil ever since the arrival of the settlers. And here we question who their devil really is. Here we have defend the sacred, and we see defense against pipelines. This is where we switched positions. And mine is like where we want it to be with, you know, when you end all that capitalist colonial extraction, we will be able to watch the colonial states of North America fall. We have the star and the shooting star, and similar to typical image, but the water's not pouring back into the other jug, it's pouring back into the earth. You know what? That's going to come back out as water down from the sky and fill those jugs back up. This one's dripping to the earth. This one's pouring to the earth. For mine, we have actual stars, shooting star, and the tower is burning in the distance. The moon. As towers, we have electricity poles. Here we have trees. We have a dog and a crab. We have 2 cranes, and of course, the moon. Here we have the sun and grandfather sun. Mine was called grandmother moon. Here we have judgment. Again, we've hit similar feels. Christy C. Road has, you know, all these signs going on in the street, a protest going on, and the people are declaring a judgment on the system. Here we have somebody's face painted red in remembrance of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit. Frankly, I would say missing and murdered Indigenous people, all our genders, are seeing this happen just in different spaces. And again, passing judgment back. And passing that judgment back, recognizing where that judgment actually belongs, not on us, on them. That's how we rise up. And we have the world and Mother Earth. All right, and so we see the various symbols around the edges here and around the edges here. And we have a person representing Saturn and Earth. And here we have Mother Earth with Kea and Abayala. So, Here we have the Ace of Wands in both decks. And in Next World Tarot, we have the Earth offering us that wand with a nod to, the Ace of Batons in Marseille. And in Landback Tarot, we have the Great Hunter's bow and arrow, an inspiration for us to create our bows and arrows and go about and nourish our bodies and take action. We have the Two of Wands and the Two of Arrows. Yes, mine is the Ace of Arrows. Sorry. Here's the Two Wands. We see the person able to go down. Here we have 2 lines of trees, and they are lining up their sights, ready to pull the trigger, take action on their hunt. Here we have the Three of Wands and Three of Arrows, foresight. Here we have the Four of Wands and Four of Arrows. Christy C. Rose calls it harmony. Some might also say celebration. And we talk about, like, that creating of home and family. My folks are here by a home fire in a tent. The Five of Wands, which Next World Tarot calls strife, and the Five of Arrows. This person is finding like that inner strength and inner balance through their difficulties. That's not necessarily easy. Here we see a standoff at Oka, and we know that, he's got all his brothers and sisters at his back to support him, and he's taking that necessary action to end the strife. They're both working on ending strife. The Six of Wands. Here we have an Indigenous person, up on stilts over all the crap going on, and this is decolonization rebirth. Here we have a group of young warriors setting fire to the road, taking back land after many of these people, got taken, and it looked like a victory for the cops. A lot of people were in these paddy wagons, and they weren't giving up. They took land back. They got their people back, which I was very thankful for, as my then 19-year-old was in one of these paddy wagons. Seven of Wands. We have courage from Christy C. Rhodes. You've done all these fights and you still keep going. You take a moment to rest, but the battle's still there. This is more like we see these colonial things our young person has to overcome before they go out to hunt another day. Mom's saying, whoa, you got some schoolwork, some colonial paperwork to take over. You got to get over this hill before you go on to where you want to go next. The Eight of Wands. The Nine of Wands. Christy C. Rhodes calls this resilience. We have somebody who's created their own business, and we have someone who's felt that deer to hunt, and they're not done. Sun's setting, and they have to dress this deer before they carry on. The Ten of Wands, completion or near completion. You've completed, and now you have to carry that deer you dressed in that pack all the way home. Completion. They have a certificate in their hand. The Page of Wands and Scout of Arrows. The Knight and Warrior of Wands and Warrior of Arrows. The Queen of Wands and Uncle of Arrows. So I switched the order of my kings and queens, which became uncles and aunties, just because I think the aunties or the queens are really a more complete version of the suit. But it's still technically, I mean, maybe I should compare them like, I don't know. Anyway, the King of Wands and Auntie of Arrows. Ace of Cups. We have, you know, the water lilies, and we have a birch basket collecting water. The Two of Cups. This is strawberry drink, folks, for people who have wondered what it might be. It's a traditional beverage in these areas for Indigenous folks. The Three of Cups. Joy. The Four of Cups, which Next World Tarot calls reevaluate, which I think is something we see going on in both these images. The Five of Cups. And we see that great loss. The Six of Cups, which Next World Tarot calls reunion. And we have a grandparent with our grandchildren. And here we're looking back into the past. The Seven of Cups, imagination. These say Pepsi, which isn't actually a knockoff Pepsi. It's a native thing. But imagining it as a knockoff, you're getting 3 Pepsis for just $2, and they're going to pay with a $2 bill. The Eight of Cups. The Nine of Cups. The Ten of Cups. We both question the Ten of Cups, and I should move those out of. Interestingly, we both question the Ten of Cups in our depictions. The Page of Cups and Scout of Cups. I think there's a lot of bravery in expressing your truths no matter what. The Knight of Cups and the Warrior of Cups, who also has some strawberry drink. They're in grass dance regalia. This one's by the water with a, it's not a fish, it's a, that's not helpful for you, it's a crab. The Queen of Cups and the Uncle of Cups. The imagery here is remarkably similar. The King of Cups and Auntie of Cups. We have a copper pot and a copper colored mug. I didn't notice the color of that before. The Root of Action, Ace of Swords, Weapon, Ace of Weapons. And we both chose weapons here. Oh, and they're both sprouting out of the ground. The Two of Swords and Two of Weapons. I do have different imagery here, and this is about the clarity of communication, and actually I did choose a really different image. I'll read it for folks. Coming together in mind and sound, the sounds of the Arctic burst from their throats in a unity that heals the wounds of colonialism. Throat singing requires this coming together as well as the letting go. Throat singing requires a complete relaxation of the throat, energies, and connection. What's before you might be difficult. Let go and see with your mind's eye, trusting that what you see will be heard on this crisp, clear night. Three of Swords and Three of Weapons. Christy has 2 swords and a swordfish with an actual blade, and the heart is healing. And mine has 3 of the swords which colonized the Americas. 4 of Swords and 4 of Weapons, respite. I always feel like they need to take a break and aren't. In this image here in Next World Tarot. Chose a pine tree because, you know, they're the tree of life. 5 of Weapons, 5 of Swords, survival. There's Tim Hortons Donuts coffee and donut box there under the pig's car wheels. The 6 of Swords. Here we have somebody nowhere near water, on the side of a road, waiting to go somewhere. They need to go somewhere else. It's maybe not the safest way to travel, but that's how they're going to get there. Mine, a person is being evacuated out of the flooded village of Saskatchewan during yearly floods. They're being evacuated out by the government responsible for the yearly floods, because this is the effects of energy capitalism on the north. The 7 of Swords and 7 of Weapons, escape for Next World Tarot. And for mine, we are seeing betrayal and, you know, a reminder to question whose truth you're listening to. 8 of Swords and 8 of Weapons. They, you know, have this magic circle. They're unrestricting themselves. They have a bobby pin and are letting themselves out of these colonial chains, which are not imaginary or self-imposed. The 9 of Swords, despair. And the 9 of Weapons are nightmares breaching the horizon. The 10 of Swords and the 10 of Weapons. And we see somebody in a great deal of suffering and ruin. And here we see people who are not meant to survive, but we are the descendants of the survivors. The Page of Swords. Here we have the Page of Swords as the home of action, cutting through do not enter sign. And here we have the Scout of Weapons, using knowledge to break through academia's upholding of Western knowledge. The Knight of Swords, the escape plan, and the Warrior of Weapons, funny as fuck powwow MC. The Queen of Swords, the Throne of Truth, and the Uncle of Weapons, everybody's favorite Romeo Saganash, telling off the Canadian Prime Minister, you don't give a fuck about Indigenous people. the King of Swords and the Aunty of Weapons, the Throne of Knowledge, and the Zapatista warrior Aunty, fighting for the rest of us, protecting the rest of us. The Ace of Pentacles, the roots of the earth, and the Ace of Drums, the first drum. It's set in the scenes where the vision of the first drum was given to Tail Feather Woman. The first big drum, not the first of all drums, the first big powwow drum. The two of Pentacles Two of Pentacles intersection, Jupiter and Capricorn, Two of Drums. And we have an oil spill and, you know, an Indigenous person cleaning it up. They are, you know, they've got spirit and food, berries to help balance out this situation. The two ships and the boom. Three of Pentacles, Three of Drums. We have folks working together, points of unity that they are working on, probably in some like anarchist house, planning an action. And here we have two folks stringing a hand drum together because it's best done with others. And the tightest drums are strung between two people. The Four of Pentacles, we have Arsenal from Next World Tarot. And the Four of Drums, we are seeing some greed through the selling of culture. The Five of Pentacles and the Five of Drums, turmoil. No matter what happens, this deck just keeps sliding into view. I don't know how. This one's doing better. The Five of Pentacles and the Five of Drums, turmoil. This young person, they have to leave everything. But, you know, they're going to trust in their parents. And these two, you know, folks that would sewn in who were interrupted by cops during a ceremony for missing and murdered Indigenous women. And there's so many different ways to respond. And this time, they sang through this turmoil. The Six of Pentacles, redistribution, and the Six of Drums, that sharing of craft and tradition. The Seven of Pentacles, vision, and the Seven of Drums. And we have an umbrella here with like the cross they're selling by the roadside and medicines and things behind them for those who know. And here we have somebody working on the vision of a big drum early on in the work before them. The tree is felled. They have to cut through. They're having a minor coffee break. Eight of Pentacles, creation. And the Eight of Drums. These kids know that to master this craft, they have to practice from the beginning, but they want to. And you know, when you love something, the work, it feels like play. And Nine of Drums. This person has created all their own needs on this little tower of their belongings. And this person has been saving some money, drumming at powwows, and, you know, they're put it away for a rainy day. They're taking it out to bring themselves some sunshine in a garden. Who knows? The Ten of Pentacles, security, the Ten of Drums. So the Next World Tarot is about the security you build in a world that says you can't have it. which is something the parent in the 10 of drums in Landback Tarot definitely knows. And they are creating security through the heartbeat of the drum and song. The Page of Pentacles, the Home of Ideas, and the Scout of Drums. And they're in their workshop. And, you know, this person here is drumming by the waters. We have the Knight of Pentacles, the methodical approach, and the Warrior of Drums. The shirt says 1491 again. They're taking a careful look at their prospects, looking to build a family drum. The Queen of Pentacles, the Throne of Sanctuary, the Uncle of Drums, driving a drum group to the next community to share in that connection. The Throne of Security, King of Pentacles, and the Aunty of Drums. There's a reason why in our traditions, women will stand behind the drum and sing, and that's because our role is to support those men who drum the heartbeat of the earth, to heal their hearts. This is a much harder journey for them, and you know, women being the strongest of the three genders, we do that support role. And that is the Next World Tarot and the Landback Tarot in my unfair comparisons. Yeah, so again, I did not include the Oracles of Colonization, which they shadow the major arcana. Actually, I possibly have a deck where I could unfair comparison these two majors. So this is the Oracles of Colonization, which is shadows, like I said, to the major arcana. And that was my unfair comparisons video. If you made it all the way through, folks, please, again, like I said, like, comment, and subscribe. And, you know, search out the other VRs in this series, and absolutely check out the description box for Mixtress Rae's unfair comparison video, where they challenge us to participate in our own unfair comparisons. See you all later, folks.